Good morning. I'd like to call the January 21st, 2025 Safety Board meeting to order. We start with attendance. Valerie Swack.
Present.
Evan Norris.
Here.
Jeff Papa.
Here.
Joe Stein will be joining us, and I am present. We're going to start with a bit of a shift in the agenda and have the Fire Department monthly report.
Good morning, Madam President, members of the Safety Board. A couple items of the Fire Department monthly report is included in your packet, but a couple items of note going on within the department. First and foremost, we're excited to share that the Fire Department Merit Commission appointments by the Fire Department have been concluded. That they did their voting last Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and the firefighters themselves made their appointments. Filling the Democratic role for 2 seats is a Brandon Meridian.
Yep, just like the street.
There we go. Spelled differently, though.
Yes.
And then the Republican candidate, which there was a race, we had 2 candidates, two individuals to choose from there, and that was Aaron Haskell, who's an individual. So we're super excited to have the Fire Department Merit Commission appointments completed, and the Fire Department Merit Commission will be doing their oath of offices and having their first meetings in the month of February. Other items of note, I'm going to ask Deputy Chief Aaron Gibbons to pass around do some material to take home. This is the 2025 Fire Department budget. This will be the document that we'll be presenting on a quarterly basis, showing you all of our expenditures. Obviously, there's not much information in there right now except for our budget, starting budget for the year. The form's pretty basic. I will call your attention that the fire department is funded out of 2 primary budgets. One is a fire department operating, and the second one is referred to as a public safety lit fire department. As you remember, Boone County has a local option income tax, and the town has decided that a portion of those proceeds are going to be divided to the fire department and a portion divided to the town. So all of those expenses are going to be shown on these forms. You can see our individual expense categories going down. The 4 series, the 100 series being all of our personnel expenses, our 200 all of our supplies, 300 other services and charges, and 400 small capital purchases that may be contained within the operating budget. The other item the fire department has is a separate fire equipment budget, and that's where we purchase large capital items, and you'll see that that budget is there as well, and that's Equipment Fund 426. And the last page, as I mentioned, is the Public Safety Lit Fund. But as we begin to fill that out, also I would imagine maybe at the February meeting, if not, probably the latest would be the March meeting, I'll have a completed 2024 document for you. This is an internal budget tracking system that I've been using for the last 28 years, and expense and track everything the fire department does to a day-to-day basis. And we're waiting to reconcile our 2024 expenses with finance and records. So as soon as we have that done with Cindy Poore, we'll present the 2024. And then on a quarterly basis, we'll be able to do these updates for you. If you don't have any questions, we have a brief presentation this morning by my Deputy Chief of Operations, Aaron Gibbons. I've asked him to come this morning and give you a brief overall about the areas that he oversees, and then maybe talk a little bit about our staffing shortages and what that may look like as we go forward. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Deputy Chief of Operations, Aaron Gibbons.
Morning.
Good morning.
How are we?
Good. How are you?
Good. So I'm going to start just a brief explanation of really what my role responsibility here is for Zionsville. So as a Deputy Chief of Operations, I oversee technically 3 different divisions, if you will. The first being our training division, which is led by a Division Chief of Training and Safety, and he really is the facilitator of all of our trainings. That could be everything from EMS training to fire training, and he also is very integrated into our recruit academy. Underneath of him, he has a captain of training, and he is actually the boots on the ground in the recruit academy, so he's the one that is at the recruit academy for pretty much the duration of the academy to see those recruits basically from day one until we get them to graduation. He has some other responsibilities when we aren't in the Recruit Academy, whether that be helping facilitate training through the Division Chief of Training, or whether that be just going out and providing training to incumbent firefighters when the Division Chief of Training and Safety can't do it, or if it's a different topic. The second division is the EMS division. As you guys are aware, we just made an appointment to a new division chief of EMS, who he basically is going to oversee our entire EMS operation. That's everything from supplies, ambulance billing, continuous quality improvement with our performance of our firefighter, EMT, and firefighter paramedics, all the way through precept programs, as well as anything related to that EMS. So he also does have an integrated part into training, where he is facilitating the EMS side of training, whether that be continuing education hours for EMS certifications, whether that be additional classes like ACLS or something like that, that is a little bit higher level for our paramedics to provide. Then the last was really our operations division, or that's really called what it is, our firefighters that are out in our firehouses. I have 3 battalion chiefs that oversee our 3 respective shifts, A, B, and C shift. So I guess really to summarize, the battalion chiefs oversee the shifts for the day, and they report directly to me. They obviously are involved in training and all those other things. They kind of all turn into a melting pot, if you will, because all of the things that we do on the operations side that the citizens see all is ran through the operations division. So I could probably go on for another long while to be respective of time. I'm going to ask Chief Van Gorder, if you don't mind, giving everybody a copy of this. So Chief Van Gorder is going to hand you guys I'm calling it a staffing outlook or a staffing snapshot. So what you're going to see here, and I'll wait till everybody has a copy before I start really going through and explaining what you guys are looking at. So first and foremost, this is a 21-day look at Zionsville Fire Department staffing. So as you see here, this is from January 26th through February 15th. The key to this, really what I want you guys to focus on initially is let's just look at the first 3 days in that cycle. And you'll see, if you look down through there, it has an apparatus, and then it has the staffing with that. So the first apparatus in the line is Battalion 209. That's, as I just mentioned, that's the battalion chief for the shift. The minimum that they must have right now per our staffing is 1. So if you'll see in the first 3 lines, we have a battalion chief all 3 of those days. If you go down to engine 291, you'll notice that one of those is a yellow box, and it's 3. And then you'll also notice that the second 2 days, it is green, and it's 4. So just a little explanation of the difference there. So the NFPA sets standards of what our minimum staffing should be for ambulances, for fire engines, and for ladders. So for a ambulance, the minimum or the preferred staffing is 2, where a engine or a ladder is 4. So if you're looking at the first column there and you see that yellow, you see that it's yellow, and that's very intentional because we only have 3 firefighters on that truck that day. If we move down to ladder 291, you'll see that it's red, and I want to draw your attention to that because that is a day that I, as the Deputy Chief of Operations, I have to force somebody to come back to work, whether it is voluntarily or mandatory overtime spot. That has to be filled in. It's a half because it's a 12-hour shift that we technically, if we were not to require somebody to come in, I have to shut that truck down for the day. If you move down to Medic 291, it is green for all 3 days. It does have 2 firefighters. The one thing to note on there for our staffing model is the ambulances have to have a firefighter paramedic on them. We run paramedics 24/7 on our ambulances. Moving down, as you'll see, engine 292, just like engine 291, on that first day only has 3, and then engine 293 as well has 3, and the 2 additional ambulances have the 2 required. The thing to look at is if you really just look at that very first row or that first column that has the red in it, if you look at the bottom, you'll see that the total number of firefighters for the day, that day, is 18.5, and that's playing obviously off of that shortage that we have for that 12-hour shift. And then if you look at the bottom row, it shows you how many total firefighters for that given day that we're actually short. So for the January 26th date, we're actually short 4.5 firefighters. But if I don't get that half or that 12-hour shift filled, I have to shut a truck down. So as you see and kind of look more broad spectrum across this 21-day cycle, the thing that I really want you to focus on is as you look across on the apparatus, there may be some green, but the amount of yellows, every time you see that yellow spot, that is one firefighter that we're short for that given day. If it's a red spot, that's at least 2 that we are going to need for that day. So if you look really across broad spectrum and instead of keying in on one day or another day, you start to really see the picture here that we're running short all the time. And obviously the key to that and the thing that I want to really make sure that we realize is NFPA sets a standard of what our firefighters should be operating at, the number on that fire truck for the day. And whenever we're below that number, it's putting our firefighters' safety at risk, right? We're operating with one less person, which goes a long way. The other thing to really look at here in this 21-day cycle as well is if you look across the bottom 2 rows for the entirety of the 21 days, there's no green boxes. So there's not a single day where we have the actual staffing that we need to staff our fire apparatus. Obviously, there's the 2 days that I know already I'm going to have to mandatory people to work overtime. Otherwise, we're having to shut trucks down. And then the yellow is kind of that in between where we need to be turned green, if you will, where we really need to be full staff, but we're just not. Any questions on that snapshot? If you would, Chief. So what I did, and to be respectful of time, at least I kept it in the same format. I also took a snapshot or an outlook, if you will, during the month of July into the start of August, so yet another 21-day cycle. The one thing that I wanted to point out with this, though, is I believe you all are aware we have 5 recruits in our recruit academy. So this is including them out on shift, what we're really talking about as far as our staffing goes, which really, yes, we have 5 in the recruit academy, but it's actually only a 3+ positive because we just appointed a division chief of EMS, and we have a selection process going on for a captain of planning. So of those 5 spots, potentially, we already know 1 has come from the operational division. There's potential for a second. So it's really only 3+ positive. But really the thing to look at here is the one small win, the one small victory is yeah, there's no mandatory spots right now. But the other thing I think that I need to be transparent on is this is with all of our firefighters not being injured, not being sick, not having some other reason that they may not be on shift. So this is with everybody staying healthy, and we know that inevitably, whether it be work-related or non-work related, our firefighters had a tendency to sometimes get injured. We do a job that can lead to those things. There was actually a point about 2 months ago that we had 8 firefighters that were all off on either work-related or non-work-related injuries that obviously, as you look at this model, if I take 8 people away, it's going to quickly start turning red. So really just wanted to point out here that yes, we are going to gain 5 recruits out of the Recruit Academy and have probationary firefighters that should help our staffing, but this isn't the solution. The gain that we've got right now, yes, it's going to help, but as you see and you look across here, the number of yellow spots or the number of firefighters per truck that we are short, the demand is still there. So really the message I'm trying to share is the reason, or I guess the why, that we've continued to ask for 12 firefighters over the past few years from the town council. This is a little bit just of a small glimpse into what that really means. And once again, all it takes is 2-3 people getting injured, whether that be on the training ground here at the fire department, on an emergency response here at the fire department, or on their days off, doing something that impact is huge on us right now because the number of firefighters we have is very, very close to that minimum threshold. So just really trying to provide just a little bit of insight as far as what the obviously the colors kind of point your eyes in the directions, but there's definitely still a big need. We still need to get our staffing numbers up, and I guess the thing to point out is of the 4 fire stations that we're staffing today, this is not talking about adding anything additional. This is not.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, right?
Yes.
Is the new stations coming down the line?
Yes. This is just currently staffing what we
Yeah.
have today. This is not staffing any additional firehouses, and as we've worked through our feasibility study, which isn't quite done yet, we recognize there's growth coming, and there's going to be additional stations, and that's going to be additional ass on top of just getting us to where we should be today.
Right, how many firefighters are usually assigned to an individual station?
So all three, the three staff stations that we have, so Station 91, there's 4 on the engine, 4 on the ladder, 2 on the ambulance, and a battalion chief. At 92s and 93s are the outlying stations. There's 4 on the engine and 2 on the ambulance. So obviously we have other trucks at those stations that sometimes they have to get off of one truck and get onto another, which we're not a fan of, but it's what we got to do. But each station, or well, the 92s, 93s outlying stations on 421 and on 700 East, those are the same, but Station 91 is different because it's an engine, ladder, ambulance, and the battalion chief runs out of there.
Are we looking to add another ladder at any point?
I would say right now, no. The focus right now is we don't know what's going to go in the new stations. We don't know if they're going to have a fire engine and an ambulance. They may just have a fire engine in them. But to say that we need another ladder truck, yes, we need to replace our current ladder. But I don't know that there's currently, based on the information we have, I don't know there's a need for 2 staffed ladder companies.
So right now, when you're in yellow and red, to fill those, you have to ask people to come in from either another station or people who, like, they come in for overtime.
Correct.
That's how you fill it right now?
Correct. It's not from, I guess to be clear, it's not really from another station because we all fall under the same umbrella. But it's, yes, they're coming in from off duty. I have to have them to staff the trucks. And there are times that we mandatory and we run a list, so it's fair based on the last time somebody's worked overtime. So the person that's been the furthest since they've worked overtime, they're going to be at the top of that list. So if we say, hey, we have a mandatory spot on engine 91, for example, we're going to go to that person and say, hey, unfortunately, you're getting mandatoried. And all firefighters are granted 1 waiver for the year. So if they're out of town on vacation or something like that, they do have an option to not just say, hey, I can't, and get in trouble for it. But yes, we have to call those people in off duty to staff the trucks.
And running at red and the yellow spots, I mean, I see that's now in the forecasting. How long has it been that way? That you've been?
Unfortunately, we've been behind the curve for quite some time. It's obviously, we're always asking for firefighters, and you guys, especially the town council, is probably tired of hearing us ask for firefighters, but this is really the why. It's really about their safety, and then obviously if they're being safe, inherently they're going to be safer for the citizens. To give you a hard day of saying, hey, we were running full staff, we have days, random days throughout the year, we might be close to running full staff right now. And last year, I would say we maybe had 10 days in the entire calendar year that we could say, yeah, we met the minimum staffing for the day. But there, as the spreadsheet shows, there's a lot of overtime, and that's also obviously, the Chief just mentioned sharing our budget with you guys. That's a balancing act that we now have to play of the amount of overtime that we approve versus just having firefighters that's their salary that's paying for that.
One thing I would add there is that Chief Gibbons has done an excellent job in sharing this, is that keep in mind the yellow spots may not get filled because we don't have enough overtime to be able to fill those spots, but we're running short. And as he said, primarily the firefighters' safety is #1 concern, but also the effective, efficient operation and when they go to an emergency call, whether that be EMS or fire. And I think those of you who may have gone through the Fire Ops 101 class quickly realize that staffing numbers are critically important to be able to deliver those services. And I also share that some of our other neighboring municipalities, those public safety servants over in Hamilton County, their staffing sheets are primarily all green, if you were to compare the same scenario like we have. So what we are dealing with here is a little atypical. To answer Board Member Swack's question, it's probably been about 7 or 8 years, maybe a little bit longer since we've been fully staffed. It's really when we opened the last fire station and added additional crews. I think I would share, make sure we're all aware, is that, we talk about 4 fire stations. We're only staffing 3, and those are 91s, 92s, and 93s. Our 4th fire station is in western Zionsville. We contract with the Perry Township Volunteer Fire Department. And Chief Everett and that team out there has done a magnificent job of providing services before government modernization. But he's also come to us and told us, that our numbers are dwindling. You need to plan for a replacement for us. We need to do that. And none of that is contemplated in the sheets that you see here today. So we really have some budgetary needs. You will, as Chief Gibbons mentioned, hear from us in the coming months regarding capital facility needs. And I think we can look at continuing to provide great services to the community by adding some facilities, redistributing some of the assets we have, but we are going to need to work as quickly as we can to try and address the staffing shortages in the years ahead. We realize that 12 firefighters last year, 12 or the remaining 9 next year may not be there, but we need a plan to be able to try and address this over a period of time of maybe 2 to 4 years so that we can become fully staffed.
Yeah, I was thinking back to probably about October, September this year, when we first, at least on the town council, first became aware of like that we were 12 firefighters short, right? And I know our first year we're kind of drinking from a fire hose, but I think proactively approaching this year and like, let's get on this now. Let's start figuring out how do we get more people in the door for 2026, right? And we can start doing that now and start factoring that into the budgetary process now as opposed to later when we're scrambling at the last minute. And so I totally see the need. I talk to Lieutenant Leverich all the time about these issues, and yeah, fully aware of what's going on.
How long does
Can I
it
ask a quick
take to?
question? Oh,
Oh, sorry, Joe. Go ahead.
it's okay. Glad you can hear me. First of all, apologies to everybody. I am such a creature of habit. This is totally on me, not making excuses. Question though, as I was having some difficulty connecting, the second spreadsheet that I got with the yellow boxes, is that in essence, pro forma of when recruits come online?
That's correct,
It is.
Joe. I do apologize. I think you may have been connecting when I was explaining that. So yeah, that outlook or that snapshot really is just a look at once the 5 that are in the Recruit Academy are going to actually be into our firehouses and being integrated into the operational division.
Got it. And I would, just for those of you that haven't had the opportunity to go through Fire Ops 101, would reiterate what these guys do on the scene. The likelihood of injury is, in my opinion, pretty high. And so if this is best case scenario, then I do agree with what Evan said, and we need to take seriously helping these guys get the staffing figured out. They're in harm's way most of the time when they're on the scene, in my opinion. So just wanted to make that known. Sorry.
And I didn't take the fire ops, so you might have learned this, but how long does it's just a learning curve for me. How long does it take, I imagine a while, from the time you identify that you need a new firefighter to the time, like, they don't just magically appear?
So you talk about the training portion?
Yeah, so how long does it take?
We'll just go from the day that we hire them, it's at minimum 6 months, and that's getting their EMTB license and getting their firefighter certifications, hazardous material certifications. And then, of course, there's integration into the firehouse. So yeah, they may be 6 months in the Recruit Academy Monday through Friday, but then there's also continued training when they come to shift as well. But it's truly from the day we hire to the day that they're at least in the firehouse is 6 months at a minimum.
You will also hear from the fire department giving you an update while we have the new fire commission board. That will be the board that will be approving the processes we'll go to. But I'd also take this opportunity to say that we maintain a hiring list for all of our firefighting positions. And we keep that for a 2-year period. So we currently have a list of applicants that we can go to and pull names from that have already been tested and interviewed. And that process will start again in 2025 because our certification time period ends in October. But we'll need to start that open enrollment, application period probably in the late first quarter so that we can receive those applications, we can schedule their physical agility, we can schedule their board interviews so that by October or November-ish at the end of the year, we will certify a new group of potential candidates that can fill any voids we have. So that's something that happens on a 2-year cycle. And then as Chief Gibbons said, once we pull the trigger, once we see that we have a budget that's approved, and we went through that starting in July of last year, ending in November-ish of last year, and it was early December, we notified those candidates. And they began the recruit class on January the 6th, but we won't see them to the firehouse until early July by the time they're finished with all their orientation and training.
Do we have an age for firefighters in Zionsville?
We do. Actually, I'll defer to state law because the firefighters are part of the 1977 Police and Fire Pension Fund, the state of Indiana pension fund. I will won't call anybody, I think it's, they've dropped the hiring age that we can lower it to 18, and they've raised it because not only in the fire service, but in the law enforcement side, the applicant numbers have dwindled significantly, so they're trying to provide some more flexibility. We currently have reduced our hiring age to you can apply at 19, but we won't hire you to 21. It had historically, for years, always been 21 to 36 years of age. So we have broadened those spectrums slightly to increase our applicant pool. We've been very fortunate last year, 2 years ago when we went through this last process for our list, we had in excess of 200 candidates. So we're doing pretty well, but we're a little apprehensive, maybe a little nervous to see what numbers we get in 2025.
You anticipate that they're going to be lower than in 2025?
I do, for a couple different reasons. One of which municipalities across the state of Indiana are having public safety shortages and are trying to hire individuals. For example, I think the city of Indianapolis is trying to hire 60 to 80 firefighters a year to try and just replace retirements. This will be something that we'll get into in greater lengths in the months ahead, but that's a concern I have of the department in 2 years from now. In 2 years from now, the Zionsville Fire Department paid employees will hit their 20th benchmark. Why is that important? Well, a firefighter must work a minimum of 20 years to be eligible for retirement. And we've already been put on notice as we're reaching out and talking to some of our employees about what are your plans for the future, that in 2027 we could see 5, 6, or 7 retirements occur, plus trying to address any shortages. So we're trying to ramp up to make sure that our training cadre, our instructors are prepared, that they'll have a much larger recruit class.
That will feed into it for sure.
Anything additional for me? I appreciate your guys' time and attentiveness, and apologize for a little bit of a messy spreadsheet, but
Oh, this is
No,
perfect.
It's good.
All the more reason to keep increasing that corporate tax base and get some revenue in.
Yes, that's true. Did you want to present any of the monthly report from the packet we have, or?
No, Chief Gibbons and I would be here to help answer any questions you may have from the report. We wanted to highlight those 2 items because I know in the report on a monthly basis, I would call your attention that every month Chief Gibbons puts his shortages in there about how many months or how many spots we've been filled, how many spots we've been short. So we just wanted to try and highlight that this month.
Yeah, and the only thing I wanted to say, I saw last night that that 293 was pulled out of Zionsville and sent over to Westfield for a little bit to help with a house fire. And so even though that we're talking about shortages and things like that, we still have these agreements with neighboring communities as well. If something were to ever hit the fan and, you know, to go to something like that, can you just briefly explain that?
No, you're spot on, Councilor Norris. Also, I would say not only did we go to Westfield, but we also went to Lebanon twice on a house fire yesterday.
Okay.
Likewise.
So busy.
Yes, and I think, again, back to the Fire Ops 101, but also these are things that Chief Gibbons will be presenting on. You know, it's a standard house fire. It takes a minimum of 4 fire engines and 2 ladder trucks. Well, we don't have 4 fire engines and 2 ladder trucks in Zionsville, so every house fire we have, we're relying on mutual aid as well, just like the city of Westfield is, just like the city of Lebanon is, because those are smaller organizations, are closer to us. So yes, we have standing mutual aid agreements with all of our neighboring fire departments, and they respond with us on a day-to-day basis, and we respond to help them.
Good to know, thank you.
So we will jump back to the approval of minutes from December 16th, 2024.
We should take the oath of office first.
Oh, I thought we moved that to the bottom. But yes, let's do the oath of office.
If I could ask everybody to please stand and raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I'll support the Constitution of the United States.
solemnly swear that I'll support the Constitution of the United States,
The Constitution of the State of Indiana.
The Constitution
of the State of Indiana,
And the ordinances of the town of Zionsville, Indiana.
and the ordinances of the town of Zionsville, Indiana,
And that I will faithfully, honestly,
and that I will faithfully, honestly,
and impartially discharge the duties
and impartially discharge the duties
of the office of the Zionsville Safety Board
of the office of the Zionsville Safety Board
for the town of Zionsville, Indiana,
for the town of Zionsville, Indiana,
according to law
according to law
according to
and to the best of my skill and ability.
and to
the best of my skill and ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
If I could ask if you could please all sign your oath of office, and I'll collect those at the end. Joe will make sure and get with Amy, and we'll have you sign yours at a different time.
I'll come in today, Amy, if you're there.
Thank you very much.
All right, and now we will go to the minutes from December. Anyone wants to make a motion to approve?
I will make a motion to approve the December 16, 2024 Zionsville Safety Board special meeting minutes.
I'll second that. All in favor of approval? Aye.
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 I wasn't here, so I'm not going to vote on that because I don't know what happened.
Okay,
Yep.
fair enough. All right. It says we have no old business and we have no new business. So are there any other matters that anyone would want to discuss?
Just one administrative item of note, that this year's awards program for the Zionsville Fire Department will be February the 22nd at the Zionsville Palomino. We will be sending invitations to the entire board for you and a significant other to attend if your schedule allows, but it will be February 22nd in the evening. So that's all.
Perfect.
I'm glad that's back.
Yeah. I think we're good. We can move to adjourn.
Ma'am,
Oh,
we did elections in December. Did they carry over?
Heather, she indicated that the elections were for this year as well.
No, okay, good.
is that okay?
Yeah?
All right. I didn't know if you wanted to stage a coup or, all right. Then I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Next regular safety board meeting is scheduled for February 18th, 2025 at 8 a.m.